What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the economic calendar moving forward, break down other factors out there, what you should be watching for as time goes on. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. Anyways, as far as the market is going right here, I just want to mention that right now, SPY is holding this support over here where this trend line happens to be, and there's potential for us to try to attempt to do that, especially as time goes on. I also want to say that when you look at the RSI, there was a bullish divergence. We talked about that in my earlier video. And then I also mentioned that when you look at our levels, we managed to close above 590 on SPY, which is a very good sign. And when you look at some signals, when you look at options and such, it does make me think that the market is going to attempt to continue this push going into this week, going into Monday and Tuesday. And then we'll see what happens once we get to the higher levels. But I'll break down more information about them in just a couple of minutes. Let's just talk about some news and data first. So what happened was the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq were on a big losing streak. They were dumping ever since the year started. It was more like ever since FOMC, the market started dipping because the Fed announced they're not going to be cutting rates as much as before. And then with that happening, right, the market had a lot of fear going into this year. So with that being said, it does give the bulls an edge because we dumped so hard, we dumped so fast. If you guys look at how much SPY was dumping, there wasn't arguments to be made that we were due for some kind of bounce, and it looks like we're about to start that, and we're going to continue this bounce at least as time goes on. So going into tomorrow, it's going to be Monday, January 6th, 2025. This is the first Monday of 2025, by the way. And just know we have Cook giving a speech at 9:15 a.m. Might not affect the market too much. But at 9:45 a.m., that's 15 minutes after the stock market opens in Eastern Standard Time, we have the S&P Global Composite PMI and Services PMI reports. This may cause some volatility, so get ready for that. And then we have the 3 and 6 month bill auctions at 11:30 a.m. So look for more volatility once those come out. So watch for those very carefully. We'll have to see what that leads to. There is a chance the market's going to try to rebound depending on how things end up going. Now, the fear and greed index is very interesting to me because one thing that's very interesting is that typically what happens is when you hit extremes, that's when the market tends to, enter either really oversold or overbought territory, and that's when it tends to reverse. So in this case, what happened was we saw SPY or the S&P 500 dumping quite a bit, and the market entered extreme fear. We actually saw that a couple of days ago, and ever since that happened, as soon as that happened on Friday, we saw buyers return this back to just fear. So there's a very, very good chance the buyers are trying to defend now because of that. And then also when you look at the options chain, there's been a lot of big, call orders coming out, at least for SPY and many other tickers out there. So this might be slowly brought back up to neutral as we hit those extremes. Momentum was at extreme fear down here. You guys can see it's starting to bounce a little bit. Now it's just at fear, and it might get close to neutral because we got closer to our 125 daily moving average and just held above that. So momentum indicators are now just at fear. The put to call option ratio was crazy. This was going up when the market was pumping. This dumped as the market, it did the opposite. When people started closing their puts, the market started dumping. When people started buying puts again over the last couple of days, we saw a lot of put buying, a lot of shorts entering on the 5-day average. And instead of the market dumping, the market got bought back up, squeezing shorts. So you guys could see when people start buying a lot of these short positions, the market tends to do the opposite. Instead of dumping, it ends up pumping. So that could be what's fueling this market rally as well. And then the last thing is this: the VIX was trying to bounce. I was worried about that initially, but then we lost our 50 daily moving average. So if we can't reclaim around the 16.5 area on the VIX, there's a good chance that this is going to continue this dip to fill some of its gaps below. The last thing I'm going to talk about is this, and I'll talk about the charts, is this. Just know we have very, very minor data coming out for Monday, and the majority of the week is going to be quite minor. There are some names worth mentioning, such as like Jeffries and Delta Airlines, but for the most part, earnings are going to be quite minor to start things off. Going into the week after this one, I do want to say that earnings become very serious with big tech earnings, so get ready for those at least as time goes on. Anyways, now let's just focus on the charts. So if SPY is bullish, you want to see us hold above 592 to break out to 593.5 and 595. If we break that, we're going up to 598. If we lose support at 590, we're looking for a dump to 588, then 585. Overall, this looks bullish because we have a potential pennant-like form that could be coming. And even though there is this head and shoulders, there's a left shoulder here, there's a head up here, then a right shoulder. I'm not too worried about this because you have to know that just because there's a head and shoulders, it does not mean the market's going to dump forever. There's a possibility that what SPY does is we form a pattern just like this where we attempts to push higher, which I think is the most likely case. So if we start off like this and we get a push going into Monday, we might attempt to push for 595 or so. And if we break that, I'm looking for 598. But then watch and see, do we get a rejection? And then will this like head and shoulders end up panning out? Or do we break resistance and then start pushing even higher like this? So I'll be watching to see if we get a rejection or not. But look for a move higher towards where this upper trend line happens to be as the most likely case. For now, we're looking for a test of 592. As long as we hold that, we're looking for 593.5. Once again, those higher levels, and potentially 598 is our target. We'll see if that breaks or not. If we don't break this and if we reject and we lose support, then this could be dumping. But I don't favor that. I think the odds do favor the market trying to push a little bit higher. So just keep that in mind, guys. That's going to be the most likely case, at least in my personal view. For others out there, we have ES. So ES is also trying to rebound, but there is one issue. We're hitting our 50 EMA as the main resistance, and so far we have not been able to crack past that. Now, it is possible that as we enter Monday and we start to see a lot more volume coming back, there could be a good chance that the buyers do return and they try to push things higher. So watch and see if we could break our 50 EMA or not. And I think there's a very good chance that we try to break past 59.95. So watch and see how things end up going, at least from here. I favor that we're going to be trying to consolidate in the very, very beginning. But just know that as time goes on, we're going to try to break our 50 EMA and then start pushing a lot higher from here. So I assume what's going to happen is we get a small dip here towards 59.80, then we try to bounce and break past 59.95 and start breaking out for the 6,020 area is the most likely possibility. For others out there, we have Nvda. Nvidia is looking a bit more bullish when you look at the overall structure. What I like about Nvidia is this: we could just close all of these and just look at this. There's a left shoulder here, there's a head, and there's a right shoulder. The full measured move is not made yet. We're approaching resistance around very close to about 146. You could also look at this as a mini inverse end shoulder. So this could be like our left shoulder here. This could be a head. There's another way to look at this. But this overall could be like us approaching 146 is our target. We have not hit that yet. And if we break that, we're looking for 148. So I think NVIDIA pushes a bit more to at least 146. There's a little bit more upside potential left in that chart. For Bitcoin, I think that we're going to be looking for an attempt to get to 99,000 and eventually 100,000. There is upside potential here. So far, we're doing a fantastic job. For Tesla, we dumped really hard, but what's good is we had this key support around the 360 area. That's where we had previous resistance becoming support, but we ended up coming short. We didn't end up actually dumping all the way down there. So that's a good sign because now we're holding this trend line. This blue trend line actually goes back for many months for Tesla. This is our main support. So from what I see, I think that there's a good chance that Tesla tries to continue to push. If we can reclaim 418, we're looking for 420, 425, and then eventually almost 430 is our targets. If we end up losing support around this 402 area, we're looking for a dump back down towards like 394. So I favor might be a small dip here before it continues to push for 418. If we break that, we're looking for a bigger pump all the way up to where our gaps happen to be closer to 430. Overall, Tesla looks a bit more bullish as long as we don't end up losing 402. For others, we have NQ. I think we could consolidate here for a bit. We're going to be watching to see if we can get a bounce here because we have like a double bottom here and we have this blue trend line of resistance we could be trying to go for. We need to get above 21,550. If we break that tomorrow, we're looking for a push for 21,700. If we lose 21,390, we dump back down, but I don't favor that. I think there could be a small dip here, then a breakout above 21,500 for a push even higher. For other factors out there, we have the QQQ. Now, this also has resistance at the blue trend line here, but we haven't necessarily gotten a big rejection. If anything, we're going to be testing about 520 near our 50 EMA, the yellow line here. If we break that resistance, we go all the way up towards 523, followed by where the trend line happens to be at 525. If we lose support at 517, we're looking for a dump back down to 513. I'm favoring 520 and then 523 as our targets as the most likely possibilities. For Aapl, now I just want to say that Aapl had a rising wedge right here, and we got this rejection on dump all the way back down. So we're watching to see if we could hold around the 240 area, 240 to 242. As long as we hold this, there could be an attempt to rebound for essentially 244 to 246 above that. That's the previous support becoming resistance. I would love to see Aapl bounce off that. If we get a bounce, I think we go back up here towards this resistance around the 246s. So just keep that level in mind. Anyways, for the rest of the tickers, I'm going to be a little bit quick with the rest of these. I think that NEO should be attempting to push for 4.8. If we don't break that, we reject back down to 4.5. If we break that, we're looking for attempts to get back up to 5 flat. So just keep that level in mind. For others out there, we have Netflix. Netflix has a double top leg structure. We've been dumping quite a bit, but we're at support right here around this 880 area. So I think we might rebound for 890. Then we'll see if we reject or not off of that. It is still weaker compared to the market, but I think there could be an attempt to bounce off 880. So just keep that level in mind. For MSTR, we're looking more bullish. We managed to reclaim 336, so we had a good piece of news for MicroStrategy. As long as we don't end up losing 318, I think that we favor a push for not only 340, but attempts to get back up to about that 350, the 354 area all the way back up here. So I favor the 350s as long as we don't lose 336. It looks a bit more bullish to me. Celsius looks a bit more bullish. I think that as long as we don't lose 27.5, I think there could be an attempt to get back up to about 29.5 to 30 because of the fact that although it's in a range on the larger time frames, I think we're trying to go for our 200 EMA. So I think this favors a push for about just under 30. It looks a bit more bullish to me. Supermicro looks decent. It's trying to rebound here. We have to try to hold above 32.7. As long as you hold that, there could be an attempt to slowly push up for this resistance near 35. Might see a dip to 32 before it tries to bounce for 35. So watch and see if that ends up holding. But overall, there is most definitely potential in this. For Palantir, we look a bit more bullish. We have 78 as our main support. If we lose the 77 to 78 area, we dump back down to 75. As long as we hold this, we're going to be looking for an attempt to get back up to resistance at 80. And if that breaks, I think there's a good chance to go up to about 82. So I think that this also resembles a cup and handle it pattern. So this is looking like 80 to 82 is most likely coming. It looks more bullish to me. For Rivian, we look more bullish. We're trying to break out right over here. We need to try to hold above 15. As long as we're above that, we're going to continue this pump. Going to be looking for an attempt to get back up to 17. I think it's doing a fantastic job to hit 17 to 17.5. SoFi dumped all the way down. I said we have to try to hold our 200 EMA at 14.15. If we lost it, I would have become a lot more concerned. We're holding support here, so we're looking for a rebound for 15.12, then 15.46. So I think there's a good chance we go to the 15s right now. I think it's looking very, very strong. The Russell 2000, the IWM is looking more bullish because we're going to be testing 224.76. If we break that, we go up to about 226. And eventually 228 is our targets. If we lose 222.6, we turn back down, but I think this is favoring essentially 226 and eventually 228. So I favor upside a little bit more. I also want to mention that we have like a double bottom here. So there's like a low here, and then we have like a double bottom. So I think it does favor upside a bit more. We'll see if we break out for 226 or above. So give it some time to develop. For AMD, we have a slanted inverse head and shoulders. There's a left shoulder here, a head, and then a right shoulder. As long as we hold 124.7, we favor a push back up to at least 128 plus. If we lose 124.7 and 123, we turn back down. But I think that this is favoring 128 or higher looking at the trend. For ARM, we look a bit more bullish as long as as long as we don't lose 140 and 137.29. We're favoring a pump for essentially 142 and eventually 145. So with this double bottom, I think we favor 145 or so. I think we're doing a good job at holding up. As long as we don't lose 137, we're favoring upside more, in my personal opinion. For coin, we look a bit more bullish. As long as we don't lose 263, we're favoring a push back up for essentially 271, then 274. So if we break this, we're looking for an attempt to get back up to 280. I think we're doing a fantastic job so far to push up for 274. For Amazon, we look a bit more bullish. As long as we do not lose 223.5, we are favoring an imbalance fill for 226. Looks a little bit more bullish, just temporarily. I do want to call out the fact that it is technically making lower highs. So, we are technically on a downtrend on Amazon, but there might be an attempt to get back up to at least 226. Then we'll see if we can break these highs or not, but I still see potential in this nonetheless. Meta looks a little bit more bullish, but the issue is that we're barely holding support. There's a double bottom forming here. I want to see us try to hold 600. As long as we're above 600 and 598, we favor a bounce. If we lose 598, we turn back down towards about 592. So as long as we hold 598, I think we could be bouncing for 610 again, and we got to break that. If we manage to break that, we could be going all the way back up to about 616. It looks like a double bottom that could be forming here. This head and shoulders panned out. We're forming like a double bottom. I'm hoping that this continues to push. So I see potential in Meta stock. For Microsoft, we look a bit more bullish here. We're trying to bounce. We're going to be looking for a test of 425.37 tomorrow. If we break that, we're going back up to about 427 over the next couple of days. I see potential in this to bounce, but look for a test at 425 as our resistance. For Google, we're looking decent. We just need to hold 192. As long as we hold that, we're looking for a push for 195. If we lose this, we could be dumping back down to about 190, but this is favoring upside for 195 plus, so give this the time it needs. For GameStop, we look a bit more bullish. We're technically on an uptrend. As long as we don't end up losing 31.4, we're looking for an attempt to get back up to 33. So I think there's a very, very good chance this tries to rebound. I think we're doing fantastic. AMC, as long as we don't lose 4.02, we have to try to hold above 410. If we break that, we're looking for a much larger pump for 4.2. So watch to see if 4.1 holds. I think we might attempt to test that, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. DJT, although there was a possible head and shoulders here, I was concerned about this. I think we might be retesting 35. So for now, look at the 50 EMA. If we could hold it back above that, I think we go back up towards this resistance at 36. So for 35.06, if that breaks, we go up to 36. If we can't hold above that, then I do see the risk of us rejecting again. So just be careful. But look for a test of that resistance at 35.06 as our most likely possibility. For the VIX, we look a little bit more bearish. This is a bullish sign for the markets, especially of this gap to fill at 14.6. Another gap down here at 12.95. So this is still favoring that the market wants to push more. The 10-year is pushing a little bit higher, not really affecting the market as much. And the dollar is looking a little bit bearish, looking for 108.73 as our target. So the dollar looks bearish, whereas the market looks more bullish. Right now, the market's favoring upside a bit more, so it looks more probable that the market's going to try to push. However, make sure you watch your resistance just to be safe. Let's see if SPY can try to reclaim and hold above 592. As long as we're above that, I'm looking for 593.5, 595, and 598 as our targets. And if we break those, we're going into the 600s. If you reject off 598, we will turn back down. So make sure you watch this pennant that could be forming on SPY. And just know that we want to be very, very eclectic, very open-minded no matter what. And for now, we're looking for a push in the markets for Tesla, SPY, and the others. So watch and see if that ends up being the case. With that being said, guys, I really appreciate you guys so much for listening. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Enjoy this Sunday. I believe it's the first Sunday of 2025. So just enjoy what life has to offer. And I just wish everyone the best. Thank you all so much for listening. Have a good rest of your day. And I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow before market open for another update. Thank you and peace out.